What's going on, everybody? So the Anime Expo exclusive from Viz Media for Bleach Tybw Cour 4 is out, and we have quite a few things to say that might be surprising and might not be. So hit that like, hit that subscribe, and let's of course just get into it, shall we? So of course, if you have been following me for a long time, you understand how I feel about this event and how I feel that if you're going to get real news, to obviously go and follow Japanese conventions, because we all know for a long time, or the highly speculation was, Bleach wasn't going to come out until 2026. So of course, we're not going to have any trailers and not much footage to go and see of this final trailer, and that was to be expected. And of course, Anime Expo kind of proved that. However, we did get a key visual, which again was to be expected, and it was one of those teaser key visuals that we've had since Cour 1, and obviously Cour 3 as well with Uryu, and of course with Ichigo for Cour 1. And this time, keep us busy and occupied until Jump Festa of this year, which is in December for those that don't know, which is then we're probably going to get a 99% chance of a teaser trailer or a trailer in general, going into what could be my speculation would be anywhere nice between spring and fall. Summer is cool too, but there's usually a lot of competition in summer, and you know, it's not just an anime you're releasing, it's also events and also promotion around Shibuya, around the train system, all that sort of stuff. So I always like to say spring, also fall, they're nice little seasons to have an anime in. Regardless of that, let's talk about the things that interested me, of course, the most, which of course, first and foremost, let's get over this. The teaser, of course, is a red background with an Ichigo in Horn of Salvation. You can say they spoiled the Horn of Salvation if you want, but it has been 10 years since the anime ended. It's also been in Jump Force. It's been in the new Bleach Rebirth of Souls game. I mean, Horn of Salvation isn't exactly a spoiler, so to say, unless like you're a hardcore anime only that's not really on the internet following Bleach that much. But overall, I think it's nice. It's a nice teaser key visual. I think it's better than the Uryu one. Of course, it's better, not better than the first one, because the first one was a monumental moment in terms of of motion. But as a teaser key visual goes, I think Horn of Salvation looks absolutely beautiful here, and I've generally got no complaints. However, people have said that, you know, Horn of Salvation Ichigo has a red eye. I think that's just aesthetics. I think it will probably keep the hollow black and yellow pupils. That should be in the manga, I think. In the colored manga, yeah, it should, but who knows? We'll see, right? We'll see. Yeah, overall, I've got nothing to say about this key visual. It just looks nice. So tell me your guys' thoughts in that comment section down below. But the things I want to talk about the most is the conversations with Kubo, Murata, and Kudo. Kudo, let's start off with him, because we have footage of him talking with the camera. Kudo is the character designer for Bleach. He talks a little about his past, how he got into the Bleach team back in 2004 for the original anime, and of course he talks about some fluff here and there, which is of course nice, right? But the thing that interested me the most was something quite interesting, which was, and I'll quote it, is, even manga readers, we will have new discoveries to look forward to, like new characters, and we get to see some of them. So obviously we get to have more than one new character. Now, of course, you can always kind of assume that this is Kazui and Ichika, right? Technically, they're new characters to the anime, sure. But I had to kind of, you know, look back. If I was going to talk about this, I had to make sure I interpreted it correctly. And he did say, even for manga readers, that these will have new discoveries. So, okay, as manga readers, we're going to have new discoveries. Of course, this is going to cover about 2.5 volumes in the arc. So we're going to have a lot of original scenes and a lot of original things too, right, that we haven't seen. So that makes sense. We will have new discoveries. But then he follows up with, for example, or like, new characters. So again, Kazuya and Ichika, right, they're not new characters to the manga. So for manga readers specifically, that's what Kudo was talking about, we're going to have new characters, right? So now we're going to, you know, get into some like very sketchy territory, right? Are these going to be anime original, manga original, canon original characters, or are we referencing light novel characters? And that's the question, right? And I kind of want to steer more towards Can't Fear Your Own World or light novel characters in general, because the reason why I'm going to push that narrative, and I always try to give reasons to why my speculation is come to be, is because even though I think we are going to get original characters too, I do think we're going to get the Soul King, right? Even though is he original? Is he a manga character? It's like yes and no, but it's like, you know, are we going to see a past Soul King that would be new? in technicality? Are we bordering on that technicality? A new Soul King as a character walking around, talking, conversating, that's a possibility, right? Is that included on a technicality of a new character? You know, and I do think, and I've said in previous videos, in my last, I think the last 2 videos that I did, I was very for Analyse to have, you know, a voice actor, right? And I do think it's going to be a new voice actor for Analyse. I do think we're going to get a flashback, right? Because we don't want to steer too far away from the path of Ichigo's story and also the Thousand Year Blood War, but we also want to open the door to expanding the world, which we will also get into as well. But I think, you know, Adonias is probably definitely up there, and then it goes into possibly light novel characters, and then my least expectation would be, you know, a original canon character that we haven't seen in either forms of media for Bleach. So, you know, and I do think it's a good thing, because I think this is going to go into very high speculation, but I do think it is logical. I don't think Bleach is going to end after Thousand Year Blood War. I've always said that, and hopefully these things can kind of justify that speculation, because then we go on to Kubo. And Kubo says the last part largely expands the story, which again makes sense, right? And I look forward to seeing it in its completion. And as such, I feel I need to supervise it closely. The amount I supervise in all the parts from 1 to 3 combined is equal to what I've done for part 4 so far. That's huge, right? Again, expanding the story, we know this. I think it's needed. I do think if they are going to go into Can't For Your Own World, I feel like, I'm not going to say there's limitation, but there is I think it's opening the door towards Can't For Your Own World. Whether they're going to do the prologue or the first chapter of Can't For Your Own World, I don't know. I think they should, to a certain degree. Again, it all depends on execution, right? I think whether they do or don't, I feel, you know, it's a win-win either way, right? You know, but the question is like, Kubo's been like supervising the scripts. He's been supervising colors. He's been supervising storyboards for the past 1 to 3 arcs. So the fact that he said that 1 to 3 combined is what he's done for part 4 makes me wonder, like, what else are you supervising, bro? Like, how deep does the rabbit hole go with you? Are you looking at each animation cut now? Like, where is this going? Like, you've increased an expectation that I can't even fathom. Right? What does that even mean? Obviously, we'll probably find out towards probably the Blu-ray of Core 4 whenever that drops, right? Or some interviews after Thousand Year Blood War finishes. But, you know, this man's been doing Senjimaru's Bankai. He's been doing all sorts of new concepts. So you know, is he equating that there's just so much original material that alone probably supersedes the 1 to 3 combined supervision? Who knows? But again, I think it's exciting and I think it's fantastic. Worrying, scary, exciting, anticipating. Of course, all these words combined can be a good thing, of course. And I allude it as a good thing, naturally. But then, like, we get onto Murata. Murata is one of the directors for the series, and he said, "This signals the final part of the Thousand Year Blood War and the last of the Bleach anime series tied to the original work. We're working very hard and doing our best, so please look forward to it." Now, this may come off as a non-quote, and I have to put a disclaimer out there that this did come from Weebsgold, who was at the event. Big shout outs to him. He kept us all kind of updated on what was going on at the panel as best that he could. I'm pretty sure he was trying to watch and type at the same time what was going on within the interviews being shown there, so shout outs to him, right? But I have to put a disclaimer because mistakes can happen, right? So I'll leave this up to your interpretation, right? But if this is the translation that Viz gave us and the correct translation that he read with the full context, then I think this is an interesting statement. And here is why, is that I don't think, personally, knowing Japanese language as I think that I do, which is very specific and very, you know, there's English and Japanese is very like, sometimes there's nuance in English language, right? You can say something but also mean something else, but Japanese is very direct language and very literal in many cases too, very, very literal. So I always wondered, well, when reading this specific statement, is why did you feel the need to say the last of the Bleach anime series tied to the original work? Why would you mention tied to the original work, right? Because that means that you're acknowledging other works of Bleach, right? And what I mean by that is when we say the original work of Bleach, we're talking about chapter 1 to chapter 686, right? Which is the last chapter. This isn't Hell Arc. This isn't the light novels, right? This is its original serialized run in Weekly Shonen Jump, you know, chapter 1 all the way to the final chapter, right? Which is the time skip, right? So, you know, to kind of acknowledge the fact that this is the last of the Bleach anime series that is tied to the original work, he's kind of saying that, hey, like, this is it. Like, the original work of the Bleach anime is completed. Now, the discussion is probably going to be onto more. Because, again, you could have just said this is the last of the Bleach anime series. You could have just said that. You know, that would have just worked out. This is the final part of the Bleach Thousand Year Blood War and the last of the Bleach anime series. But he added in the tied to the original work parts. And I didn't think that was necessary, but it was added anyway. Which means that, to me, that there's a subtlety there. I do think there's a subtlety, and that is my speculation. Going from past interviews that I've documented in the past on YouTube, and how I've broken down how voice actors have said something accidentally, or how, you know, even the anime staff have said something accidentally, which did come to pass, I do think that was a bit of a teaser. You know, whether you want to acknowledge it or not is completely up to you, but I do think, you know, yeah, that it's tied. Unfortunately, as well, on the other side of the fence too, I'm going to make a counter argument as well and say that Hiromitsu, who is the script writer, did also say on Twitter that during, you know, obviously Bleach's run, he's going to have a lot less work, so he'll be open to more projects in the future. So I think, to me, that kind of says that, hey, you know, at the moment, obviously, right, I think a lot of attention is going into Thousand Year Blood War Cour 4 right now. I don't think the discussion for light novels is happening just yet. And I do think it will be a new IP. I do. I think it will be a new IP if they do continue to pursue forward with the Bleach anime. I do think, and we'll probably get a bit of a break too. I don't think it's going to be like, oh, you know, Bleach ends, boom, next year we're going to get like a movie. I mean, we could, right? Who knows? But we're not going to just get something straight away. I do think there is going to be a bit of a pause time. But we'll discuss that when that time unfortunately comes, right? I do think in this current time that, like, there is no plans on his radar, personally, the scriptwriter, to do the light novel things, because I don't think it's possibly been spoken about yet. But we'll see and discuss more when that time comes. But I think there's some interesting allusions within this that tells me that this is going to continue post Thousand Year Blood War arc. And I think they're going to set the stage, especially with the new discoveries, the new characters. If there is more than Adonias, as a new character, there's multiple characters, because it's characters. And again, Kudo said you'll see some of them meaning more than one. So again, Kazue Ichika, I don't think he's talking about that. Adonias is a possible one, but then there's more, right? There's more. So I mean, you're gonna throw Tokinada in there and not do more? I think the moment we get acknowledgement of Tokinada, which we already did in Rebirth of Souls, I do think this is what is going to come to pass. I do. The evidence supporting it rather than denouncing it is a little bit more stronger, right? So that's my kind of takeaway from all this. I'm very excited. Bleach 2026 with the key visual. Tell me your guys' thoughts. Of course, I'm very pleased. I'm glad that it's 2026. I'm glad that they're not rushing. I'm glad that they're taking a lot more time. And this is technically the first core that is 100% Pyro films, because regardless of what, Core 3 was, you know, there was still some Pyro remnants in there and wasn't the full Pyro film. So this is going to be a full Pyro films production with no overlap of old Pyro budget or X, Y, and Z, right? So we'll see. A lot of exciting things are coming forward. So please tell me your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'm going to catch you motherfuckers later. Of course, hit that subscribe if you want to be updated and hear my takes on other things. Okay, catch you guys later. Peace out.